Welcome back to Tech Talk. I am your host, Jeff Hootselle with Auditmacs. Today on Tech Talk, we are happy to be welcomed by Matthew Parks from Pace Center for Girls. Matthew, welcome back on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate
Good to see you again, man.
Yeah.
So you've been on once before.
I have.
Couldn't wait to have you back. I was reading the Business Journal the other day and saw that you had recently got recognized. So they had their Tech Leaders of the Year award for the top leaders in technology in North Florida, and you were lucky enough to be on that list.
I appreciate that. That was a great honor, especially to be a part of the inaugural class of Tech Leader of the Year. So, yeah, it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's great.
It's kind of especially career-wise, from where I come from to where I am now, it was a good look back.
Yeah, well, it's well-deserved. I mean, you guys have a lot of things going on. I mean, the organization's about 30 years old?
35 in March.
Okay, so 35 in March. You guys have 20-plus locations. You're kind of moving and shaking. So you've done a lot of work over the last couple of years, in particular with really kind of transforming and revitalizing the network and doing some other things. I mean, talk a little bit about some of the projects that have really driven that change that you've made in the organization.
Oh, wow. So the initial project when I arrived was actually, digitizing the organization. So people talk about digital transformation. We had to actually digitize the organization. Right. So we had, when I arrived, we had 17 locations plus the headquarters, which was 18. They were all on different disparate networks. They all had their own different PBXs. So, part of a conversation you and I had offline about PBXs, they all had their own, and right. They all had support on retainers. Mm-hmm. And so we went in and brought all that in-house, unified all 17 of them into a single unified communications platform, yep. Upgraded the back of the house so that all of those match what was in the front of the house. We replaced all of the computers. We did that, was able to put a great team together that I still have, from a retention piece is awesome right here in the tech industry, yeah. And, we did that in 8.5 months where we did all 17 and stood up a new center at the same time. So, but we haven't been able to sit still. I'm a firm believer that if you're not evolving, you face extinction. Mm-hmm. So we've been upgrading from what we created was an MPLS network that we stacked our Cisco Unity on top of, and the back of the house was all Microsoft. Now we're in a place where we're evolving with the industry to SD-WAN, mm-hmm. which is the new latest and greatest. The cost savings and the ability to have the redundancy is a big piece of it. So that's the next iteration that we're in the throes of currently. So there's that piece, and then we also have the moving forward with our Teams expansion, or I say migration, but it's more of a transition. We're Skype for Business now. We're moving over to Teams, and that's our unified messaging, if you will. So that's the way we're rolling right now.
So you're talking about a lot of different technologies in really a short amount of time. I mean, you've got a pretty vast, a pretty well-rounded background and experience in a lot of different jobs, a lot of different services and different areas of technology. Do you consider yourself to be really a specialist in one area, or are you more of a kind of generalist? How would you?
I am proudly a generalist, yeah. Early on in my career, somebody asked the question, what would you tell your younger self? And one of the things I would tell my younger self, it's okay to generalize. And the reason that being on the leadership part of it has helped me to be able to communicate with the various vendors that I have to deal with, and to look at the different technologies and to be able to see at a high level and zoom in and the interconnectivity of those technologies to see what gives the best experience. Right. Because at the end of the day, it all goes back to the UX, to the user experience. And if that's garbage, then nothing else matters because it won't get adopted, it won't be implemented properly. Yeah,
and you've talked about that. I mean, we've had conversations again offline about, when you're moving to new technologies, you're not just doing it for technology's sake, right? It has to be, there has to be a relevant business impact. You have to understand, what the user experience is going to be like, what's it going to mean to the bottom line. When you look at doing that much change in that short a period of time, and there's obviously some technical skill that has to be there. Right. What about from a soft skill standpoint or an organizational standpoint? What do you think is the most important thing from that side of the house?
Well, from a technology part of the house, and we just had this meeting today, one of the things that is important for us is that soft skill. For a long time, we had resigned ourselves in IT that it was okay not to be, conversationalists. Yeah. That we had really resigned ourselves that we weren't, that we didn't need to be that, because we made sure the trains ran on time, and as long as that was there, that was our result.
It's like a utility, you're just putting out fires, making sure stuff's on.
And that's no longer the case. We really have to be front facing. It's important for us to have that connectivity with our with our customer, with our internal customer or with our external customers, like in your case, that we really need to make sure that we have that connection so that we, beyond ourselves, can validate whether we're actually doing a good job or not.
Right.
And we were actually, what's the term, self-licking ice cream cone for a long time in IT, where we actually didn't look for any input from anywhere else except ourselves.
Right.
The technology's out there, it works, oh, well, it's hard to use. Oh, well, I guess you need to educate yourself better. So now we've flipped that because consumerization has helped with that, right?
Sure.
Where we have consumer products that have creeped into the consciousness of enterprise. And because of that, that made enterprise level technology have to adapt and become more consumerized. So with that, the ease of use have come along, and so we've had to adapt to that. So we are also more user friendly.
Yeah. Well, I think that drives the adoption piece too, right? So, I mean, you're talking about change, just human nature in general. Not everybody loves change, right? So the more you can make it where it's an elegant solution, it's meaningful to them, and they really have some level of involvement to it. I think that makes a big difference.
The other part too is buy-in, being able to connect the actual technology beyond the organizational scope. So a lot of times when we present the technology, we say, well, yeah, this is going to help the organization save money. This is going to help the organization communicate better. But as I'm sitting on the other side of that desk, I need to think about, how does it help me communicate?
Right.
What does it do? What is it? What do I get out of this? What's in it for me? And that's the conversation that we are now having to have with the user, because again, they've had experiences with technology that were relatively easy. Most people now have networks in their homes. They didn't call someone to do that. They bought it, they took it out of the box, and they set it up. So we now have to make sure that we set up premises that allow them to do the same thing, not so much on the setup part, but the ease of use. They can come in, they open the computer, it's like a television, it works.
Yeah. So you mentioned being a generalist, obviously getting exposure to a lot of these technologies. I know you just came back from the Microsoft conference, and I'm sure you got a little bit of drinking from the fire hose from that.
It was drinking from a fire hose, yeah.
Yeah, so as you're looking at the next wave, the new things that are going to be coming out, that'll become more mainstream. I mean, there's obviously, I'm guessing you saw everything from AR to AI, you've got 5G, you've got edge computing, you got all these things. As you look at it, what one technology really has your interest, or do you think is going to be most impactful as we look at the next 12 to 24 months?
I think the artificial intelligence, and that's a wide swath, is one of those that's really going to be helpful. Part of the misconception is that it's finished or it's ready, and it's a long game that we really have to understand is there. But from a customer perspective, one of the biggest complaints that customers have is response time. So with artificial intelligence, you can have bots now, and I know we've had negative connotation with bots as of lately, but you can have bots now that can respond to customers and can ask questions that help your team delve deeper into problems without actually, where they can actually be more productive, as opposed to having to ask those questions themselves. So that's one way where we can benefit. Artificial intelligence and augmented reality, those playing together is also going to be a big piece. One of the pieces that I saw down was the new Connect cameras from Microsoft, and other companies have these as well, that allow you, if you have a large warehouse space, that you can do, you can take inventory from just the cameras themselves without have to physically mark them with any RFID or any of that pieces, and the cameras just watch the inventory as it moves around, and it tracks where it is in the building or when it leaves the building, because you have multiple cameras that track its progress. So that's a big piece that I saw that's coming in. Your area is going to be augmenting that, and I mean that from your level of expertise with the cloud. That is what's undergirding the entirety of the process, is being more cloud-centric is where companies are going now. We saw a lot of companies that were talking digital transformation, and again, that term has become a little convoluted also in what it means. But from the perspective of walking away from iron computers into cloud-based premises is something that is being really touted. And on the back end of that also is the social responsibility and impact that companies that are cloud-based are taking to try to make sure that they are responsible consumers of the power that it takes to build data centers. That's a big piece.
It's a lot. There's some good stuff there. I mean, I think even on the AR side, the education possibilities.
That's the tip. The iceberg. There's a lot under the water that we wouldn't have time probably to discuss.
Yeah, there's so many use cases there, I think, even in what you guys do and how you're impacting these young girls' lives and helping with the education piece and preparing them for kind of that next phase of their journey. I think technology could play a really big role in that as well. So
that's a big thing that we're really trying to push now, and I know that I've been an internal advocate for that. Is you know, we know, you and I do, that it's more difficult now to find STEM related employees, people coming into the business, because there's so few candidates, and then there are so many opportunities that they basically have their choice. And being able to be that sustainer from our perspective at Pace, I think, is probably that next evolution that helps prepare them for the jobs that are hiring today. And I think that's where we had another question that came up recently from someone, you know, here in Jacksonville. What is it that we can do as a city that would help, you know, promote us as that tech forward company, city? And part of that is that I think we need to start thinking about pipelining into jobs that are actually hiring. If it's kind of the Willie Horton thing, right? Why do I rob banks? That's where the money is. Why do we need to train more people in technology? Because that's where the jobs are. Yeah. And all companies are becoming technology companies. That may not be your primary premise. You may, you know, make shoes, but somewhere in that, if you're not doing so in a technologically responsible way, then, you know, you're going to be gone soon. Yeah,
well, I know that's a big passion of yours as well. I know you're involved in the Jacksonville IT Council. I know you serve a lot as a mentor to a lot of folks coming up in their IT careers. So you're certainly walking as you talk there, I guess. So
I do my best there, yeah.
But I mean, I could go on all day with you today. I know we always love having you on the show. I mean, you've always got a ton of great insights and stuff to talk about. But definitely congratulations on the
Thank you, I appreciate
the award. It's certainly well deserved. You know, we appreciate it. And appreciate you guys as well. Thanks for tuning in today to another episode of Tech Talk. We look forward to seeing you next time.